had you in space for a second there. Hey, everybody.
Hello.
All right. Welcome back to the Hurwitz Lab. I have a very special family edition today, and I'm here with two very special people with me. First, I have Hallie Beth Hurwitz, who's a 20-year-old woman just back from a 3-month solo trip through Europe as part of her gap year. She's also my daughter. And to my right here, secondly, I have the esteemed Sara Hurwitz, who's a longtime medical office manager and now runs HR and compliance here at Northern Nephrology. She's also my mother, and she brings unique experiences. We discuss world travel since she was a French teacher for many years and lived in Paris as well. So welcome, Sara, for your first podcast here.
Son.
Hello and welcome, ladies.
Thanks,
It's nice
Dad.
to have you. Nice to have you both here. So I'm excited. We have a lot of things to chat about, and I think the first thing that would be interesting to start off with the topic would be gap year. So, and I think gap year is kind of a funny name because gap makes it sound like there's something missing.
Yeah.
Like you're trying to fill something in.
That's true.
I'm not sure I totally agree with that. I feel like it's a growth year. It's not like you had something missing. It's like you're growing.
I was filling in. I mean, maybe that's the point of gap years. You're filling in the gaps.
Could be.
That's
But you have
how
to
I felt about it.
You recognize what the gaps are.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think the gaps were?
Well, because of COVID, there were a lot of gaps in meeting people. I was at home, so
Socially. There was a social gap.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I had gaps maybe in my ability to make new friends because I was from a small town and I didn't have to.
Yeah.
So going out there by myself and being forced to talk to people on my own who, were living really cool lives, people who've been traveling for years.
Right.
And I had to, open the door and just be like, hey, how's it going?
Right. So it
I'm
made you had to
Hallie.
come out of your shell a bit. So
Yeah.
from that standpoint, it was
Very, very productive.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So let's talk a little bit about like your preparation for it and what you did. I think that's a good place to start because it's kind of
Yeah.
like just the basics of, and a lot of people can learn something from this because I will tell you, and I'll tell everybody out there, all the listeners at the Hurwitz Lab, that Hallie put a lot of work into planning this year. It wasn't like out of nowhere. We originally had the Knowles thing set up.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about that really quick because that was also a letdown, I feel like.
I was really excited for that. It was 3 months also in Patagonia, so like Argentina, Chile area.
Right.
And I would have been with a team basically of 17 students.
Right.
And we'd be doing classes in the wilderness basically with a couple guides and just backpacking the way I did, but way more intense.
Right.
So the same type of backpack, but mine was 60 liters. This would be a 100-liter backpack filled with equipment, rations, and kind of like what Aunt Monica did
Correct.
for a little while.
That was when she went to a summer camp.
Lorien.
Camp Lorien, yes.
Yeah. And so it would have been very intense, and I think I would have grown a lot that way as well, would have met people, and
Less city exposure in that one.
it would have been total mountains.
Yeah.
And
I think
just-
from the dynamics of it, it would have been more intense with a smaller group of people.
Yeah. And so that's something I would love to do in the future even, but because of COVID, couldn't do it because cases were going up in that area, in that region. So I decided to do my own thing because I didn't want to revert back to school just because I couldn't do this program.
Right.
Because I was so excited to take some time off from school, and it's been my whole life, and really being online with it, I fell out of touch and out of love with school for some time, and I realized I shouldn't go there.
Do you feel like that happened in high school before COVID and before graduation, that you fell out of love with school, do you mean? Or do you feel like it happened after COVID?
Yeah, because my senior year was COVID.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I went online while I was in my New Visions program.
Right.
My internship type thing at the hospital. And I was supposed to be doing clinicals and things, shadowing people, and I couldn't do any of that because
that fell through.
Yeah. So I just decided that it would be best for me to still do my own thing
Yeah.
for this year, and I'm really happy with my
Yeah.
decision.
How did you decide like where you were going to go? Like what was your itinerary? Like how did you like go at that?
I didn't want it to be too rigid or too structured.
Which is nice going solo because then you don't have anybody else kind of getting in your plan.
Yeah, and it's fun to travel with people, but I was excited to just be able to do what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so I kind of just researched what places I could go to. And of course that changes every day right now.
Right, yeah, exactly.
But I was vaccinated, and I was willing to, get a booster, do whatever I had to do, so I could go where I wanted in Europe. And I just made a list of places that looked really fun. France was, of course, top of my list because
She speaks beautiful French.
I've been trying to speak French for a long time, and I've taken it 7 years, but I've never, been fluent until I got to college and we started practicing actually
more.
speaking, because in high school we don't really speak French.
Yeah.
We just kind of learn vocabulary
Yeah.
and such. And
So France was definitely top of the list.
yeah,
Then what were the other ones that you really wanted to make sure you got to?
Spain, definitely.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Practice a little bit of Spanish too.
Mhm.
Didn't get to because it's very different Spanish there than Colombia, where I had been.
Right.
I really wanted to go to Greece,
Good choice.
and
I would have died if you didn't go to Italy.
yes, everywhere that I went to, I really wanted to go to,
Yeah.
except for Ireland.
Yeah,
That's
so how
where
did that get on the list?
That's where
Sarah?
I flew into, and I was like, I didn't even really want to go, but it was one of my favorite places.
That's interesting. What did you love about Ireland? What was it?
Just the people were really welcoming,
Mm-hmm.
especially Galway. It's just a very artsy city, very small, and it just, as soon as you get there, like 2 days after I arrived, it already felt like I knew everybody there. I would just walk around the street and I'd see people from the hostel who had their friends there from university, because there's a housing crisis
Right.
there. And so most of the people in the hostels I stayed in were university students. They couldn't find apartments. So it was just all people my age.
That's
and
amazing.
all having
Hallie,
the crack.
Did any of the people who were in university, were they affected by the COVID the same way you were when you were here in the States?
In terms of
online classes and in terms of not being able to be with other students and masking all the time. And
yeah, I think most places in Europe were the same
so
in the way of
kids
online
had the
school,
same
and they had a lot of
issues.
restrictions as well. So everyone was really excited to go back to in-person school. But yeah, it was similar for them.
So that even though they lived in the hostel, they were going to school online?
No, at this point, because this is only 3 months ago,
Mm-hmm.
so COVID had already been around for 2 years, a year and a half,
Mm-hmm.
and school was in person at this point.
That's good.
But there's a housing crisis, so they can't find apartments, or
Right.
maybe the dorms were closed. I don't know exactly
The reason.
the reason why
Yeah.
they couldn't. Also, it's very expensive to live in any of these cities, so I think hostels were cheaper for them.
What
as
was
well.
the exchange rate?
The exchange rate with Ireland,
Yeah.
well, with the euro was $1 to 1.3 euros,
Oh,
I believe. And the pound when I was in the UK was
that's shocker.
really shocker. Yeah,
Wow.
I think it was like $1 to 1.6
Yeah.
pounds. So I had to
Just blowing through cash.
yeah, it felt like it.
So that brings us to budget. Like
Yeah.
what, how did you worked hard over the summer? You put a lot of money away. You did a good job. Proud of you
Mhm.
how you pulled that off.
Thank you.
And how did you plan out that you weren't going to run out of money? How did you do your budgeting and manage that?
Yeah, it wasn't anything crazy, any crazy math. I just
Did you
totaled
give
up.
yourself a daily limit?
Yes. So I totaled up what I had. And I wanted to leave myself at least $1,500 at the end of my trip for when I came home, so I still could live.
Right, yeah.
Pay
So you could
rent
pay
and
rent
stuff.
at the house.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, got it.
But I had also I had taken care of my grandmother for
Right,
2
right.
weeks
Yes.
and was getting paid a caretaker wage for that. So I got a little bit of money from that. So I ended up having $7,000 to start with
Right.
at the beginning of my trip, and I just divided that by the number of days that I wanted to do. So I wanted to be out traveling for 100 days at least.
That was your goal.
That was my goal.
All right.
Wow.
Is that a common goal that people have? Like, where did 100 days come from?
I don't think so. I think everyone has their own time limit.
Yeah.
Some people go for just a month
Right.
to one country.
Right.
Some people say, I have no time limit. I'm just going to travel until.
Right. But
I'm
there is a
ready.
limit in terms of how long you can stay.
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
I guess it came a little bit from that. You're right.
Right.
Because you can only stay 90 days in the total of the Schengen countries,
Okay.
which is most of the Western European countries
Mm-hmm.
and Greece and yeah. Ireland has its own 90 days and the UK has its own 90 days. So I knew I didn't want to stay that long in Ireland or the UK. I knew that any longer than, 3 months was going to be a lot. That's a long time. I've never been away from home that long.
Right.
And I thought there was a possibility that I could want to stay longer, but I just wanted to give myself the goal of 100 days. I will make it to that. If I want to keep going, sure. If I have the money to keep going, sure. But if I don't and I did 100 days, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And so, like, with that, 100 days, it's not like a week you're going away. What is it? What was the goal? Like, what did you go there hoping to achieve? You said there were gaps, that you had gaps. But what was it? Like, what was inside you? What were you trying to achieve? What was the goal?
I guess I wanted to prove to myself a lot of independence
Mm-hmm.
because I've been privileged in my life, with my family and support systems, and
You've never
And
been really on your own.
I've
doing
never
your
been
own
on
thing.
my own. Yeah,
Mhm.
so I wanted to prove to myself that I was capable of forming my own relationships out in the world, budgeting for myself, not going under, just staying afloat the
Yeah.
whole time. And I did. And I came home alive. So.
See, you did it.
Course.
And that's it. So I think,
course.
independence and responsibility were the two things it sounds like were really important to you to try to achieve.
I wanted
Wait
to
a
feel strong. Yeah.
But where does having fun come into all
Yeah.
of this? This was,
Well,
what wasn't that your goal also?
Yeah.
To see a different part of the world
oh, yeah. Big
and
part.
meet people who were completely different from you, or so you thought.
Exactly.
And what did you find out?
I found out that there are so many people in the world to be friends with,
Mm,
to
That are
listen to
positive.
hear their stories. Yeah, that are positive. So many women in the world traveling on their
Amazing.
own.
Isn't that amazing?
At my age or a little bit younger, I met 18-year-olds traveling. Nobody younger than that.
Right.
But
were
yeah.
many of them American, or were they mostly from the European countries traveling within that EU?
They were mostly European. I think it's a lot easier for Europeans, young Europeans, to travel around
Yeah.
the EU.
Yeah.
They have a lot of free entry into museums, into sites. They have the Interrail pass is a lot cheaper for them than the EU rail pass would have been for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even end up getting the EU rail pass, and I just did my own budgeting for trains and buses because I think it ended up being cheaper that way.
Interesting.
But
Cool. So do you feel like you went there and you experienced all these other people. Do you feel like they stereotyped you once they knew you were American? Like, did you feel that or not necessarily?
Yeah.
Did you?
Actually,
Tell us about that.
in Greece, at the hostel, it was one of my last nights. I was just talking to this group of people with one of my friends who I'd been hanging out with for a couple days. And this one guy says, "Oh, we're going out to eat. Do you want to come?" And I was like, "Oh, no, sorry. We just ate. I'm not hungry." And he was like, "But you're American.
That's a good one. You guys
You
always
should be
eat.
hungry." And I was like, wow, that's kind of rude.
That's funny.
It was hilarious, though. And
That's good.
yeah, there's definitely stereotypes, but I set a good example for myself. I don't
represented.
have any. I am American.
Right.
I can't change that.
No, and we're proud of it. It's
Of
wonderful.
course.
I think everyone should be proud of where they come
course,
from. I'm very
exactly.
proud of the little town that I come from, the
Yeah.
little city of Plattsburgh.
Right.
And, I loved growing up here.
Mm.
And yeah, I'm very happy to be where I'm from. The one thing is, it's very true that a lot of Americans, while traveling, don't learn other languages. They don't pick up any words in the new place that they are, just because everybody speaks English. And unless they go to, maybe like a rural place or out of the main cities, then they don't really have to use the language of the place that they are.
Yeah.
Mm.
And people were very surprised that I spoke French, even though I wouldn't call myself fluent by any means, but I practice and I try every
That's
time
the
I
thing.
can. I practiced just as much French in other countries.
And you can
as I
imagine if
did
you had been in France for 3 months and you just immersed yourself in French, you'd be speaking.
It's the best
Right.
way
That's
to
the
learn.
way to do it.
Mhm.
It is.
Yeah.
But
Nana
you
knows
live
about that.
yes, I do.
Mm.
But you live very close to Montreal.
Mhm.
And we go up to Montreal often. At least we used to when the border was open all the
Mhm.
time. And you wanted to go to school in Montreal, Concordia. And my question is the French that you heard different from the French you hear up in Canada?
Because the border was closed for a while, once I started getting good enough at French to maybe be able to understand a lot
The
more of Quebecois,
conversation? Yeah.
I couldn't really go there. So I don't know too much about Quebecois except for what I've heard at the restaurant that I work at as well.
Right.
But what I heard from people in France was that Quebecois sounds a lot like slang to them. It's not so
Yes.
proper. It's the same way that Spanish from Spain
Differs.
they follow the rules maybe a little bit more
Right.
than, Latin American Spanish.
Right.
But to me, they're just different languages, really.
I know. Because when I go to Canada and I speak French, I speak the old-fashioned, proper,
Parisian
grammatical
French.
Parisian French.
And they're like, oh,
And
no.
they understand everything I say
Mhm.
perfectly, but I don't always get what they're saying.
They have a lot of slang words, special or little. What's it called?
Noises.
Yeah, they're like some little words.
Sounds, and their nasal sounds are different,
Mm-hmm.
but
But yeah,
it's good.
That's
Mhm.
neat. So, getting back to, I love the concept. I mean, I want to hear more details about the trip, but some of the big pictures, like this healing thing and this filling in the gaps
The
and
doctor
and
in 'em.
growing. I think those
the
are
dad.
important, and it comes from a type of learning called social learning, which is just as important as going to college, and it's actually part of going to college because you see people do things or you emulate them, and that you learn by being around people. But because you went to another country, you were social learning from people who had lots of different experiences.
Mm-hmm.
What were some of the things you feel like you saw people do? What were the differences you saw? What do you feel like you took away from some of the people you met that you're bringing back that's now a part of Hallie that you kind of learned?
That's a great question. I think the people that I met, especially the ones who had been traveling for a while,
Mm-hmm.
some of the actually the two girls that I met at the end of my trip, really, really, I wanted to emulate them a lot because they were just very confident in themselves and in their value system. They were both vegans, and they made it look easy because they just cared enough to stick to it. They weren't the type of vegans who are just doing it because it's a fad diet and they want to tell everyone they meet that they're vegan. They just do it because they care about sustainability, they care about the environment, and they just think, why wouldn't I do this if it's easy enough for me to get healthy food? It feels good, so why wouldn't I do this? And I was just thinking, yeah, why wouldn't I do that? You know, they're making it look like
Easy.
Anyone should be able to do this. And they talk about it, not in an annoying way, just in a way of, you know,
it's their life.
I feel really happy doing this, and I want you to know about it because maybe it would make you happy too.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I love that.
Oh, that's great.
I love it when people can share their lifestyle without pushing it on you.
Yeah.
And
more as an example, which is, I mean, that is the idea is that if you see people, if you see people living a certain way and they're happy and they're, you know, they look like they've got something you want, you try to emulate the things they're doing. But that's interesting. So those two women towards the end of the trip. What about some other people I remember?
What about the people on the farm?
Yes. So that was great. There were...
And that was in...
Yeah, first set us up. Tell us about the farm. That was a Workaway, right?
Yeah, so
All
this
right.
was my first Workaway I've ever done, and the only one so far, but I'd love to do it again. And if you don't know, Workaway is just a volunteer.
Where did you find out
Website?
about Workaway?
I'm not sure exactly where I heard about it. I've known about it for a while, ever since I wanted to travel at all. It's just a very common way for people to travel for less money and get a really cultural experience, a culture exchange. And so you have a host, and they usually have some projects that they need to get done, and you'll come. Hopefully there'll be a bunch of other volunteers, and you just get to maybe practice language or meet people, just have a small community and, you know, have fun.
And how long do these Workaways last, usually?
It really depends on the place, but oftentimes they say they want someone to stay for a minimum of 1 month.
How long did you stay?
I stayed for, I think, 2.5 weeks.
2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, where was this Workaway again? It was
So this was in Italy.
in Italy, right?
It was called, the town was called Castiglione di Garfagna.
Okay.
Garfagna. And it was right outside of Pisa,
Okay.
Italy. So, but I got there and I really just spent my time there.
At the
because-
farm. Because it was a Workaway.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't a play away.
No. Did you get to know the people very well?
Yeah.
Did you learn a lot by seeing them and sitting and working? Because I saw pictures of you sorting nuts.
Show it. Do you have any pictures from there?
Yeah.
Let's see what you got.
So I'll show you.
Let's take a look. We're in Hallie's iPhone here.
All right. Well, first here's my tent.
Okay,
that
so
I
that's
slept
where you
in.
slept.
Yeah.
Was it cold?
It was freezing. The night that I arrived there was the coldest night of the year.
Oh.
I only know that in Celsius, I think it was like -2.
Ooh, I mean, yeah.
So it
freezing.
was freezing. It
Yeah.
was snowing there. You know, the snow started piling up on the top of the tent and would be soaking into it. So I woke up a little bit
Damn.
wet as well. But it was really nice. And I ended up sticking it out in the tent the whole time.
Good for you.
Amazing.
Good for you. Oh, was
They
there a
offered-
mattress in there, or what
Yeah,
was
there was
in
a
there?
mattress
Okay.
and a wood floor.
Okay.
As soon as a place opened up in the yurt, which was up at the top of the campsite,
Yeah.
and there's a wood stove in there, and that's where all the volunteers were. But I was like, I stuck it out the coldest night of the year. I'm just gonna stick it out the rest of the time.
That's it. That's an experience.
Yeah, it was
That's
great.
awesome.
I was proud.
Yeah. So that was the tent. Any other
Yeah.
pictures from the farm?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Oh, this is a marble quarry that we
Yes.
went to.
I remember you told me that was where Michelangelo, I believe.
This one specifically was not. There was another marble quarry we went to. I don't have a good picture of it, but it was called Carrara. I have
Very
terrible.
famous marble.
Yes, and that's Michelangelo's marble.
That's a very famous marble.
Mhm.
Carrara marble.
I picked up a couple rocks from the ground. I hope the Italian government doesn't watch this.
Oh,
well, I
they
wouldn't
are.
talk about it if I were you.
Here's us sorting the chestnuts.
Oh,
That was our
okay,
job.
This is good.
So every morning we woke up at around 7:25, and we'd walk over to Combe, our host's little house.
Is that him on the right there?
That's him on the right with the glasses
Got
and the
it.
messy hair.
Okay.
And we'd just walk over, 7:30 breakfast. He'd make chestnut pancakes, which I think it's pronounced noci, the Italian word for chestnut pancakes. And yeah, it was made from the flour of the chestnuts that we're sorting. So
Wow.
really,
So sorting the chestnuts real quick.
yeah.
What are you sorting? They all look the same to me.
Well, there's some red in there.
Okay.
If you can see, there's some dark parts.
Right.
Can you zoom up on that? Let's see what happens if you zoom up on it. Oh, nice.
Can you see any? So it looks like that's a bad pile there.
Okay, so that's a pile of bad ones.
You know, there's still some good in there,
Yeah.
but basically Combs' goal was to have the sweetest flour
Okay.
out of anyone else selling chestnuts. And
Oh.
farming chestnuts is a dying trade, a dying field in Italy is one of the only places that they grow chestnuts like this anymore. Tuscany region.
Mm.
And so basically they'd go through this drying process. They all winter they were drying, like roasting almost, so that the outer skins would come off.
Okay.
And then they're left with this red skin underneath, which is really bitter if it's in the chestnut, if it's still on the
So your
chestnuts
goal
when
is
you
to
mill
get
the flour.
I see. Okay, so the key is to
So the key is to get rid of any moldy ones and get rid of any ones that have a ton of that skin on them.
Okay.
Because it's not like you can scrape. If you scraped it off, it would take years for you
Right,
to make
yeah, exactly.
any flour. So we just kind of threw out the bad ones, and kept the good ones. So his flour was the sweetest.
Gotta love it.
Yeah, and he's selling it like crazy.
That's amazing.
too.
So how long were you there for?
2.5 weeks.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah, but it was 39 bags, each 20 kilos
Wow.
of chestnuts. So we had to get through all of those.
Wow.
I left just before they were done. But
So what was your day like there? It was get up at
7:25, get up, go to breakfast 7:30, then we'd start sorting
have
the
one
chestnuts.
chestnut pancake.
Yeah, a chestnut pancake with an egg and some cheese in it, or maybe you'd put some jam on it or
Mhm.
something. And
No
it's more like
maple
a crepe.
syrup.
No maple
No
syrup. No.
maple
And then we'd sort for 3 hours. About.
Gosh.
Wow.
And you would think that it'd be really tedious and, you know, like we wouldn't want to be doing
Right.
it. We'd be ready for it to be over. But think of so this is, at this point, it was maybe 7 people around the table, all young people and calm, young spirit. And we were all talking the whole time, just sharing stories, talking about how we grew up with school or our travels or Bitcoin.
Right.
You know,
Interesting.
Anything, whatever came up.
whatever came up, and or literature. We had some people really interested in literature, and sometimes Colm would share riddles for us to solve, and we'd just be thinking for 20 minutes would just be everyone quiet, just trying to figure out
That's so funny.
like,
And
what
sorting
door
chestnuts.
to go through, which
Right.
troll to ask.
Yeah.
And it was really a lot of fun, and I wanted to be there doing it, and he would say, all right, guys, if you want to like go outside and we could go do work outside instead today. And we were like, no, we want to finish.
Hang at the table.
Yeah, we want to hang around the table and help him finish
His
the chestnuts. Yeah, because he was really good to us.
So it's seasonal, obviously.
Yeah.
And so you guys were there in an important time.
If we had gotten there earlier in the season, we would have been picking chestnuts off the ground that had fallen off the trees and helping him maybe with the drying process. But no, the time we got there was
So is this a pretty well-known
work.
Workaway? How did you hear about this particular one?
This was one of the ones that had like 35
Great
reviews, which is not even close to the amount of people that have stayed there. Even
Right.
all of the reviews were incredible. They said they loved Combe, they loved the farm. He calls it Wild Camping Palladini, and it's a campsite, so people go and pay to stay there in the summers.
I see.
It's magical. There's a river. You walk through this path, and there's a river, and it's all just organic living.
Cool.
You know, down to earth. He
Off
uses
the earth.
coffee grounds as soap to wash the dishes. Like, you've got this slimy feeling on your hands after that you have to wipe off with a dry towel because, like, it's clean. It is clean, but it's different. I had to get used to some of the stuff there.
Like washing with coffee?
Yeah. Yeah, you like coffee, but not that much.
Not
maybe.
that much. No, I might wash in coffee.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But, you know, cold showers were lukewarm and dry compost toilet.
Interesting.
Sometimes. So there was a little Airbnb house that he rents out to people. And so the couple nights that place was rented out, we couldn't use the bathroom in there. So we used the compost toilet.
Wow.
Yeah.
Use what you got. But where does his family live?
They live right next to this house.
Do they have a house?
Yeah. So this is his place. And he likes to be closer to the volunteers, make it easy when we wake up in the morning. But his family, he's got 4 boys.
4 kids.
4 kids.
Mhm.
You know, around
Young?
my age.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. So teenagers.
Oldest one, I think, was still in his 20s.
Okay.
And
Are they working on the property?
once in a while, yeah. But, you know, they're doing their own thing.
They want to do a
they're
gap year and
school.
get away from there.
Gap year.
They
Yeah,
want to
they
meet some
travel.
people.
But what's cool is they can travel just by coming down the hill down here. You know,
right.
they have people from 10 different countries.
Right. That's key.
So they're always
Nice.
meeting people.
That's
You know,
interesting.
maybe.
Awesome.
flirting a
That's
little.
interesting, Hallie, because it is true in the United States. We may go to a different state, but they're all Americans and we're homogeneous across our country. We all watch the same programs. We speak the same language. We're very homogeneous.
It's true. It's a big country.
Yeah.
You know, it would take a while to travel all around
Well,
the
I
States.
always felt like in Europe it was going from state to state, only you're going from country to country.
Mm-hmm.
And they all have such different histories.
Yeah, I think it's
And-
beautiful. And that's why I wanted to start by going to Europe, because I knew I could travel easily from place to place, and it would be so different each place I went. You know, I can go to Vermont, and it's different, but we all speak the same language, you know.
Yeah, and it's not that different.
And the school systems are pretty similar, and, you know, really things vary so much between countries. The people I met from the Netherlands, almost all of them spoke 5 languages at least, because in school, starting at like age 5, they're learning.
They have to, because they have German people over here and French people over here, and then they have their native language, which is their own.
Mm-hmm.
And
So, yeah, there's...
what did you feel when you got off the plane? In
Ireland?
In Ireland.
the first... Oh, wow.
That first step.
Let me think.
Good question.
That is a good question. No, I wasn't scared. I'm just remembering the airport. Okay, I remember. So I got off in Dublin. It had been like I think I had one layover in Newark, New Jersey. It wasn't too long of a journey, maybe like 15 hours journey or something. And getting off in Dublin, the signs were in Gaelic and English. And my first thought was just, I didn't even know anyone still spoke Gaelic. Or they call it Gaelga, is the Irish language. But I was like, wow, I was just breaking so many stereotypes that I had of Ireland, just walking into the airport. And I knew that my trip was going to be just a lot of learning, a lot of
Yeah.
starting to understand other parts of the world that
Yeah.
maybe I had thought I knew things about, but I knew nothing about, really.
Right.
You have to see things for your own eyes. You have to be there.
And experience them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Or you could just listen to me.
No,
Just
that
kidding.
never works.
No,
Well,
it
it's
doesn't.
amazing because your father went to Europe
Yeah.
and I learned nothing. Except he went to the beach in Greece. I didn't learn that.
Yeah,
But he
Dad had
kept
a little trip.
Everything was private between him and Rob Freeman.
That was it.
I knew nothing.
You had a good
I know
time.
nothing. No, it was a great trip.
Yeah,
And I
Nana
think-
knows what it's like to be a parent as
Yes.
well, having a child go traveling.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
And I think it's different. And let's talk about that a little bit, because like this was a topic of solo travel for women. And how do you know you're meeting people, because it's no fun to travel and not talk to people or meet people. You can't be shut down. But at the same time, you have to be aware and safety conscious. How did you approach that? And what was your preparation for that? Like, what were your thinking
Yeah.
going into it?
So I didn't want to, be discriminative of anybody. But definitely I wanted to be more careful about talking to men in general.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I would be safer talking to most women from the hostel or different things. If I wanted to go get a drink, if it was with a woman, I would be
Less likely.
I didn't have to be as careful.
Yeah.
Because I could gauge better, what their intentions were.
Mm.
But with men, I was always very on guard. Just, I was chat openly, talk, share my experiences,
Right.
make friends. But
Right.
but you have to be careful because you never know when someone's gonna flip a switch and
Change. Yeah.
want
Did you feel that way about the people, male or female, in the hostels?
Almost never. Really, people are very worried about women going to travel by themselves, and definitely I think you have to be more on guard. But also I know many guys I met traveling who had worse things happen to them as
Yeah.
well. Getting drugged, stuff happens to guys too.
Oh.
But you just have to be aware,
Yeah. Yeah.
I was always, if I was walking around with my backpack, always making sure someone's not walking too close behind me or, just like looking around.
Yeah. Just being
Not
aware.
scared.
Right.
I was never scared, really. I just was
Aware.
eyes open. Yeah. But there was one time in London, I met a guy who I thought was really cool. And I started talking to him. He sounded really smart. He had I was reading Sapiens, and he had read it, and was telling me quotes from it. So I knew that he had read it.
Right.
And he was talking to me about this really cool idea he had for art, to combine it with blockchain and to kind of make a sort of digital museum in a way, which was a very interesting idea. And so I was really interested in his ideas. I wasn't really interested in him romantically at all.
Yeah.
But we were just talking as friends. And after it was very normal, very friendly. And after 3 days of us, we had just been hanging out and walking around town, talking. He just starts acting crazy. And he flipped a switch, and he told me that he was in love with me and he wanted to marry me, and kept was harassing me about how many kids I wanted to have and stuff. And meanwhile, the hostel I was staying in, this was in Paris now. So we met in London. We hung out a couple times. Very normal.
Right.
I went to Paris, and he said he was going to Paris as well, and if we wanted to meet up, that'd be cool. And I was like, yeah, sure, cool.
Whatever, right.
Let's talk. And he stayed in the same hostel as me, and this hostel didn't have Wi-Fi in the rooms. So any planning I wanted to do, I had to go to the common area. And as soon as he flipped that switch in Paris, I had to be in the common area to get anything done.
Right.
So I was just, he was in there, so I was just thinking, how do I get away from this person? I've already paid for 4 more nights here at this hostel.
Wow.
Should I waste my money and find somewhere else? Or am I fine here?
Right.
You have to think about things like this.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes safety is more important than the money that you're spending.
100%.
if it's late at night and I'm getting off the train and I need to get to my hostel,
Yeah.
I'll pay for an Uber.
Right.
You know?
Yeah,
That's
of course.
$15 is worth it
Right.
compared to walking home and getting mugged.
So what
know?
did you do?
Exactly.
Did you stay or did you?
So I stayed there because I talked to the guy at the front desk and I told him, hey, there's this guy who's kind of bothering me. I'm just letting you know in case anything happens.
Right.
But I just need to hang out in the common area. But, like, if anything happens, I can come to you, right? And he was like, yeah, don't worry, I got you. And so that's what you do. You just tell somebody.
Yeah, you just talk to people.
I didn't feel like I was in immediate danger, like he was going to try and hurt me necessarily.
Yeah.
It was getting to the point of uncomfort, and I just was taking precautions.
Good for you.
And I just told myself, if anything happens, you know, I'll just take the metro and I'll go somewhere else.
Right.
Right.
Easy. Yeah, he said some weird thing. He ended up saying some weird things, like, you know,
He wasn't
serial
altogether.
killery things.
Yeah, yeah.
So
That's not cool.
he was definitely out of whack. But the point of this story is that in the beginning, I saw no red flags whatsoever. And
Yeah.
I think I have a pretty good gauge of people and their intentions when I first meet them, you know, if they're like someone I want to be around or someone I don't want to be around. But this was 3 days of me thinking I can be around this person. It's cool. I'm enjoying talking to this person. And then
Third day.
complete 180.
That's bizarre.
So, yeah, you have to.
In retrospect,
That
there were no
happens.
red flags. In retrospect, when you think back to when you were talking to him, because sometimes one of the other things that's important when you're meeting people, I think, is not talking too much and doing more listening. Because
Yeah.
if you want to gauge who someone is, you want to make sure they're authentic and people, you know, that, and not really what they're saying, but also what they do.
That's a good point.
Because if you see what they're doing, that helps you know, like, you know, someone riding the bike on a tour around the city you're probably safer than someone you've never seen them travel. You've never seen them do anything. It's just watching them and listening to them.
No, that's very true. And it's not like he was, you know, he didn't have a job or anything. He didn't have very many ties. But I was listening quite a bit. He was talking to me about his family issues and, you know, growing up, he had, I don't know how much of this was the truth.
Right.
It's hard to
Right.
tell.
Well,
now
that's the
what
point
truth
is when
was.
people, that's the difference between people talking, and that's when
And what
you
I
have-
see.
and what you see.
That's very true.
And their interaction with other people.
Mm-hmm.
Like as opposed to the women you met in Greece where you saw them doing things and you saw them preparing food and you saw them living a certain
and you know,
way.
if I didn't want to hang out with them, they would hang out with someone else. It wasn't this like immediate attachment,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes myself, I'm a little bit, I care about people a lot.
Yeah.
I want to listen
You
to them.
open up.
I don't even open up so much as I listen to them and I try and help them work through their issues. But maybe that could get taken advantage of. And I learned a lot from this situation, that just because someone's telling you that they have, you know, trauma and stuff doesn't mean that if they're making you uncomfortable, you can't leave.
Right.
You don't have to help everybody.
Exactly.
You have to think of yourself as well.
Yeah, from a safety standpoint, you need to know.
And you can always go into a conversation being open, but as soon as you feel something, you know, it's okay to leave.
And that brings us to another topic which Nana brought up, which was drinking. Like, you know, because one thing, if you want to keep your wits about you, it's hard if you're drunk.
Yeah.
How did you balance having fun, being out at night with friends, and being safe?
Yeah. I didn't drink very much
Right.
the whole trip, just
Amazing.
because.
But they drink wine all the time.
And it's cheap, and it's very
And
cheap.
it's
So
delicious.
the temptation was there, and I did occasionally, and I was very happy of how cheap it was. But I just didn't have that much desire to, because I wanted to protect myself, and I didn't think like one night of drinking was worth, you know, maybe if something bad happened. Also just because I didn't trust the people I was with enough. I don't know enough about them to, if I got too drunk, for them to take care of me and get
Right.
me back
Of
somewhere
course.
safely. So the time that I started drinking, you know, going out and having fun drinking, was when I met up with Casey, my friend from home, in Spain. And there was one night that, because I had the safety of him and I
Yeah.
knew he would take care of me and he would
Right.
look out for me, I drank a little too
Yeah,
much.
right, all right.
I didn't know my limits because I
Cut
hadn't
loose.
drank really in like 2 months. and threw up in the street and all this
Oh.
stuff. It was gross.
You got to have one European throw up in the street story.
Do you have one?
I don't know.
He
Not
doesn't
one
know.
to share.
It's possible. I'm not sure.
You,
But, yeah.
you brought up a friend coming from the United States. And did you feel better having, you said you felt safer. Did it make your trip better? Were you enjoying it more?
It's different. That's what I'll say. It's just different.
It's different.
I grew a lot more on my own than I did when I met up with a friend from home. Of
Absolutely.
course. Because
You have to.
yeah, you have to. When I was with Casey, I didn't have to talk to new people as much. If I wanted social interaction, I had it with him. The one plus is that he's a very social person, so a lot of times he's pushing me to go out and do
I
things.
saw a picture of you. Music played a big part in this trip, and we
Mhm.
haven't even touched on music.
Mm.
But I saw a picture of you, and you had this new little baby guitar. I don't know, was your baby, whatever. and there was a little girl dancing, and you were sitting on the street.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have that picture?
I do.
Let's
have
see
that
it.
picture.
Throw it up there.
Here's
Yeah.
There it
Yes.
is. And I was wondering, because that is something that is so foreign to me. I could never do that. I mean,
But you're a performer too.
but,
You're
but I
beautiful
could not do
pianist.
that. I could not do that. I can't explain why. It's just, I couldn't. And I want to hear how it felt, because I know you've never done that before either,
mm-hmm.
although you've played a lot of gigs and music. But this was new and different.
This was different. I'm a quieter singer. I don't belt really. I don't have a super strong voice. I like my voice soft. I think I sound better with a microphone. But yeah, I just really enjoy playing music. So this one day, Casey had played on the street in Madrid, and he said it was wonderful, and he made some money. And so we made this plan to go out and busk for a couple hours and see how much we made. And our goal was to only eat that day
What you made.
with the money that we made on the street.
So you guys were starving.
No, and so we played for like 3 hours.
And what country was this?
This was in Spain,
And
in
you were
Mallorca.
singing in English.
Yes, yes, indeed. Although lots of tourists in Mallorca, so I think not a lot of
It's
them were
known
listening
as
for very long.
As a place where wealthy people go.
Yes, they call it the 17th district of Germany,
Oh,
actually, because all the Germans go there
oh, for holiday.
for holiday.
Mm.
Yeah. But yeah, I was just playing some of my original songs. I played "Many the Miles" by
Cool.
Sara Hurwitz.
Yes, of course.
There's a Pine Grove song I really like.
Did you
Aphasia.
play the same series, like a set, and then repeat
That's
the
what's
set?
great
Yes.
because people change. And
Because
you just
the people
play,
change.
Yes.
And I don't have that many songs that I know by heart. And I learned that the songs I play on the street, I kind of have to sing them loudly, and I have to not be looking at the lyrics, because that's when people are like, "Oh, okay, she knows her
Got it.
stuff."
Yeah.
That's when they are like, "All right, I'll give her something."
Right. So that was one of your side gigs.
Yeah. So, but my goal with it was really just to build confidence and to be able to sing loudly.
Right. So do you feel like it helped you from that standpoint? So you got even benefits in your music here.
Yeah, of course. I think it helped a lot. I know
Did
that
you
I can
bring-
do that now.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Did you bring the guitar home with you?
I did, yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to see it.
Oh, it's
Yep.
great.
I actually ended up sending home my smaller backpack that I was keeping my laptop and some books in, my journal. I sent that home in a package.
Did you send that home in the middle of your trip?
Yeah.
She did. And
I
we got
thought
this
so.
wet package. It was
yeah,
crazy.
it was all taped up on
It was
every corner,
amazing.
filled with clothes, stuff that I brought too much stuff, I realized, and I because I didn't know what I would need while I was traveling.
Right.
I read blogs and stuff, but
Right.
it was different traveling than I was doing.
Right.
Right.
Really, all I would have needed was 2 pairs of pants, maybe a pair of leggings to wear under, and a couple shirts and a sweatshirt, and then a coat.
I've
For
been
clothes, that would have been it.
I've been dying to ask you a question
Mhm.
because Italy is warm. What did you notice a very big change between Ireland, then England, then Spain, then Italy?
In terms of
and
weather.
In terms of weather, it got warmer and warmer. Then you went to Greece.
It did, yeah. It did get warmer and warmer. But Ireland wasn't so cold. You know, it was all mid-range, like
Oh.
45 to 60 degrees most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere. I mean, there are a lot of countries, so I won't go through
Yeah.
each place. But in Ireland, it just rained so much that it felt colder.
Right.
It was really cloudy. It wasn't like, there was no sunshine.
Right. It's amazing because Irish people tend to be, maybe it's from alcohol, I don't know, but
Very
they're
bubbly. and
bubbly, yeah.
they're fast talkers, too.
Yes.
That's why it's so hard to
Yes.
understand them sometimes.
Yeah.
But,
Funny.
yeah. But no, the weather was very mid-range for most of the time. Greece was the warmest.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had
Did you
brought,
get in the ocean at all? I mean, it was 60s in Greece, probably still cold.
I didn't go to the beach because
No
it was like
beaches.
an hour
Yeah.
away. It was the end of my trip, and I was getting
Yeah.
really exhausted.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do any big,
Did
trips,
you go to
bus
the
trips.
Pantheon?
I walked by it, but I didn't go
Walked
in.
by it.
I went to like the Acropolis and
Right.
the Agora.
Mm.
Yeah, did some stuff. I went on some hikes up to just look over the city.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a good
Yeah, show us a
picture.
few pictures from there.
Did that.
See what you got.
You know, your Aunt Judy took a cruise with
Mm.
Uncle Arthur, and they went off the coast of Greece, and then they got off the boat to go up to Athens,
Mm-hmm.
not realizing how far above sea level Athens
Mhm.
is. It was a hike and a half
I
to
believe
get
it.
to the top.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's a beautiful picture.
Yeah, so that is right near where my hostel was the Acropolis, and it's the Parthenon
Yeah.
up there. So the Acropolis is, I guess, the whole mountain area, and the Parthenon is the building
Right.
with the columns. Yeah, so that's that, and then we did this one with my friend
Wow,
Lisa.
nice.
That
What
was called
building is that?
Mount Lycabettus. And this was just a tower, but
Mm-hmm.
actually there's a church behind where we were sitting.
That
I don't have
goes
the
with-
picture right here,
that
but
goes with the tower. Is the
it's
tower.
the same it's a very small
Mm.
area, but it's just I think it was maybe a 30-minute hike up to the top. And it was a beautiful view, sunset, even with the clouds.
Nice.
Yeah.
Flowers.
Yeah. And so the end of my trip, actually, this is a cat. I took a picture of this cat because it looks so peaceful. And on the tour that I took of the city in Athens, I learned that cats are like a huge symbol of health
Mm.
and wealth in Greece in general, but in Athens especially, for hundreds of years. And when you think of stray animals in a city, a lot of times you think of
Cats. dogs.
skinny dogs and
Mhm.
skinny cats.
Yeah,
No,
malnourished.
yeah, malnourished. And here they're all fat. They're all happy
Everyone's feeding
The
because
fat
they're
cat.
all getting fed. And it was just really beautiful to see because when I was in Colombia, there were a lot of stray animals, and they were very sickly looking, and people didn't think much because they're trying to feed themselves.
Right, yeah, exactly.
It's
that's it.
not such
It's a competition.
yeah. So I thought it was beautiful, and we have 2 new kittens at home.
Yes,
so
we do our little
I was
polydactyls.
really excited to see them. And,
Mika and Tundi.
Yeah.
Awesome.
but,
So
yeah.
And I mean, that's awesome. And I think a topic I wanted to make sure we touched on was what happened with social media, and what you went there, with social media and what happened to it when you were there and where you are now. So what has been your evolution? Because I think that's a great topic, very important for young women.
Mm-hmm.
True.
I agree. Yeah, I think a lot about social media because it's a huge part of my generation, and it, all of my friends my family, we all have some sort of relationship with social media. And I had an interesting relationship with social media because I first got it when I was in middle school. So I was like a preteen, and I was, society was telling me that I need to like post these pictures of myself and get validation from them and get likes. And I was basically brainwashed to think that I needed this type of validation from people online, and that I had to spend lots of time making myself look perfect in a picture, and
if not, filter.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, always filter. You never
Right.
look good enough if
you're not
just
filtered.
plain. You will never, because everyone else is using a filter, and you're like, how could I compare to them, with this perfect skin and that's all blurred out and stuff.
Right.
And it's all fake. And so anyway, that's rant, but I had a toxic relationship with it, and I was definitely an addict from like 13, and I cared a lot about what feedback I got from people on there. And so it was like after watching The Social Dilemma, I think, my friend Casey had been telling me for a while that I should get out of social media. He was a really good influence with that, but I didn't really listen. I knew I should, but I just didn't want to because everyone I knew was on it.
Right.
Right.
You feel like you're missing something.
I felt like I'd have FOMO, fear of missing out. And but then in the last summer, I decided to delete it. It was after watching The Social Dilemma, and I realized that how it was all kind of just a scheme and a game of the companies. I was the product, is how they describe it, in the attention economy.
Right.
And go listen to the podcast, Your Undivided Attention, by Tristan
Good
Harris.
plug.
Yeah, we heard that.
Yeah, it's my favorite.
Good plug.
But so I deleted my account, and I was really frustrated with Instagram because when I was trying to delete my account, they have a notice that says your account will delete in 1 month. You can't even do it immediately. You have to wait a month. They make you sit and think about it. And luckily I let it the whole month.
Lapse.
I didn't relapse. But man, that's annoying.
Yeah, that's not cool.
It should be illegal.
Yeah, but it deleted, and I was really happy without it. You got, I talked to you about how I felt very full and free from not having to use that, and I didn't feel left out at all. And
you actually still had some friends.
Yes, I
which
did.
is amazing.
I still hung out with people.
See?
I still talked to people.
And you
Life
could still
continued.
use your phone
yeah.
as a telephone.
That's the thing, is my friends were worried, that I'm like, would I be able to see their stuff? Would I know what was going on? And I was like, you can call me.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Or text me.
Text me, like, it's on.
Yeah, right. I'm here.
We're all using our phones.
Right.
Like, it's not hard to stay. I'm not against using a phone.
But I always felt it was weird. This was even when I was young, not young, but you guys were little, and Facebook was just starting. And people started to post what they were doing. And I thought it was so strange that, all right, I don't need to know what you had for breakfast. Like, people were posting their meals and what they were doing. And all of a sudden it was this parallel living. We were all, and it just seems, even now, I just feel like it's a very strange thing. It's not a normal part of being human.
No, it's not.
Because it's not part of our natural abilities. It's an
funny
unnatural
because
ability.
Never having had that in my life, I was never aware of what a big influence it was having on my children's lives. And when they were young, they didn't have it either.
Well, we had something different because we had TV really coming out with sitcoms and shows, and there were issues because I loved to watch TV. And that was a problem. I mean, to the point that they put a lock on the TV. I had certain times I could watch, and
then
you know,
took
but
the lock out of the
yeah,
TV.
well, you know, that was my skills. But you know, I think for you guys, from a anxiety standpoint,
Exactly. It was
From-
very different.
from the standpoint of even, you know, suicide and things like that, social media is having some major impacts on young people your age group.
Yeah, never before had people had to worry so much about being judged, but not just at school, not just about what you wear at school, but all the time
Right.
about like what you did that day, you know, or if you're not posting, people are thinking you fell off the face of the earth. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, no, you can have a life. We all have a life
You
outside
have more of a life.
Yeah, you do. You free up so much time. So that brings me to what I did for, if that's okay.
Yes, that's where we're going.
Yeah, what I did after getting away from social media, how I decided to incorporate it into my life again for my traveling. Because at first I didn't know if I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
I thought maybe it would take away from me really living in the moment there and, you know, feeling the need to take pictures so I could have some content for my profile. But I never felt that way because just in the way that it's so wonderful to journal while you travel, and I wrote in a personal journal all the time, it's in the same way. It's nice to have pictures. It's nice to be able to look at
Memories.
something later
Exactly.
and see what it really looked like. I don't think that's a bad thing at all.
No, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and so I took a lot of pictures of beautiful things, and I wanted to share them with people, and I wanted to share my stories of traveling with people, and because it felt productive, it felt like showing people my age, like girls my age, that you can travel.
Right.
Like I didn't do anything crazy. I'm not like a genius or anything. I just and I never thought that I would be able to do this on my own until I did it. And I proved to myself I could. So it felt cool to just, you know, share my stories, and I'm happy that I have this
Chronology, the story of your trip.
It is a story. It's like a picture story.
Yeah.
And
your
words.
writing is so beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's really awesome.
Thanks.
We
So
enjoyed it. We felt like we were going with you,
yeah.
and we missed it. There was a period there when you stopped,
Mm-hmm.
and
But it was a good period because that was when I was at the Workaway, and that was one of the times I was connecting with people the most,
right
and just feeling like I was really where I was.
in the
Yes,
moment.
present,
Mm-hmm.
which is so good.
Yeah, playing music every day,
Yeah.
you know, just talking to people. And what was so great is most of them didn't really use social media there either.
They
We were just all there.
Did you feel like when you were there, it sounds like the people who were traveling maybe weren't using a lot of social media. Did you feel like you saw other women your age, like who looked like they couldn't get their head out of the phone? Or what was your experience from that when you were in some of the other cities?
Yeah, one of the most frustrating experiences I had with that was just going to sightseeing places, just like beautiful places in every city. People go there, and I go there, and I'll take some pictures, but I go there to enjoy my time there. Right. Or I'll sit and write while I'm there in it because I'm looking out at the city, and it's
Salvador Dali
you're just thinking,
Museum.
yeah,
That's
yeah. I
exactly
sat
what-
there for 3 hours and wrote
Yeah.
in my journal, but I took pictures. But what makes me mad is when I see people walk in and take their picture and leave. And they didn't even see anything. And that's why they went there, was to get a picture.
Right, and it's like a selfie with me in this photo.
Yeah.
Like, oh, there's the painting behind me. And
Yeah, and it's
Come
like
on.
if you ask them, how did you feel while you were there? They won't have anything to say. So that's annoying. But I met some people who are still involved with social media. They post those pictures of themselves that don't necessarily have a long story. Maybe it has a story to them.
right.
One of my friends I met is like this. But she, and she, maybe she doesn't care about the likes that she gets or anything, but she has a big presence on social media. She posts a lot of stories throughout her day.
She writes the stories.
Yeah. No, it's a story, like a picture story.
Oh.
So you tap through it, and it's just some pictures from her day.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's cool because she's traveling. She's in new places, so there's a reason to be posting for her maybe. But what I found so special about her was that while we were together, she was never on it.
Good sense.
We were always talking to each other. We were always present with
Communicating.
each other.
Right.
And it was refreshing because my experience growing up, even here in like such a rural place where we have so much nature, when I was together with my friends, a lot of times we would be using social media while we were together. And it seems like if it's something you're going to do, you should, be writing your post, be doing your thing for yourself and like by yourself.
Right.
That's how it should be. And that's how I made it for myself.
So where are you now, and like how are you applying, like where is social media in your life now that you're back? You've taken this trip, you kind of put it aside for a bit.
I posted one last post of me being home, and now I don't have any reason. I don't feel any need to post anything else, like ever again. Maybe if I go on another trip.
Right.
But I have no need to.
So are you on, like, how do you feel any need to like open your phone and scroll for any reason, or not really? Do you feel like you kicked it?
So actually I didn't scroll at all while I was traveling, because what I decided was I wasn't going to follow anybody on my Instagram account. That's what I mean by it was for me, because I could see who liked my pictures and stuff, and sometimes I was interested in who saw them, but I couldn't go on my homepage and scroll and see everybody else's posts.
Right.
And that's what used to really trap me.
Right.
And keep me on there for so long, is that I didn't even really want to see what other people were doing so much. I wanted to be living my own life, but because it was there, it was just like
this
autopilot.
Yeah.
It's just you start doing it and you just can go for hours.
Right.
And so I just didn't let myself.
Yeah.
I turned my notifications off so I couldn't see when people liked my pictures. Just if I went on there specifically with the purpose of, seeing maybe if my grandparents saw this post, or if the person that I tagged in it, who was my friend, if they saw it, or, different stuff. There's a time and a place to use it. But now, I'm not following anyone. Sometimes it felt strange I would meet people and their way of texting people would be using Instagram. And they'd be like, oh, can I have your Instagram? And I'd be like, oh, yeah, like, you can follow me, but I'm not going to follow you, like,
right.
And it felt kind of rude in a way. I didn't say it in a rude way, but I was just like, I'll message you on there.
Oh, right. Okay.
Or let's use WhatsApp.
Right.
Something.
Yeah. Better.
Yeah. But I didn't want to break my
You're not following rules.
Just to make other people feel better, to get one more follower, because for me it's so important to not have the ability to scroll.
Yeah, that's
and
interesting.
One day, hopefully, I'll be able to, follow people and have a good enough relationship with social media where
you can keep it in a balance,
but I can stay away from it.
Yeah.
And I can control. I have the willpower to control myself with it, but right now I just don't feel that with it, so I need to take my space.
Well, good for you.
Right.
Yeah.
It's what you've been talking about, I have seen with your cousins, and they have dropped out.
Mm-hmm.
Too.
And Elliot, my brother,
and Elliot, I compliment you all. I do, because it's not easy to give up things that have given you pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
But they're harmful.
Mm-hmm.
So you had a nice detox.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, I want to hear what she wrote in her journal. No.
Oh,
no,
that journal is a personal journal.
No, I don't want to read it.
Jeez.
But,
you don't want to
she
hear
always
that.
goes for the Harlequins.
But I want
romance stories.
I want to ask you, have you read your journal since you've been home?
Actually, I just did yesterday.
Aha.
Yeah.
Because I
funny.
too kept a journal when I was a young girl.
When you were
traveling
in
France and Italy. And
what did you write?
I have conveniently
Do you want to read us your
misplaced it.
journal?
I have conveniently lost it.
Oy vey. Hold on a second. I got to turn my
under the
headphones down. You
floorboards
can
as
start
well.
reading now.
No, I have conveniently misplaced it. But but it is very good to review and to see what you were feeling and thinking. And
Yeah.
you learn a lot about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Learn about yourself.
I realized I was in a very different place at the beginning of my trip than I was at the end.
Interesting.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes. I wasn't
Because that is the gap.
That's the gap.
This is, we're getting down to, you've
Oh.
distilled it down to the gap, Hallie. So tell us about that.
Okay, so I told you before that when I got to Ireland, I was like excited because I knew I had done it. I had made it
Yeah.
to my first country on my own and all this stuff. But like it wasn't like I was at the beginning of my trip, I was very much learning
Yeah.
and forming myself.
Mhm.
And the reason why I took the trip in the first place because I felt like I was missing something. I felt like I needed to, form my personality. I didn't feel like I had space from school or the time to like actually work on myself and know who I was. And I wanted to know that before I started a path towards a career or a school path or anything concrete, because I feel like how could I choose a path before I know even what I like or anything. So at the beginning of my trip, I was a little bit lost, I think. I was a little bit like, I was meeting people. I was, having fun still.
Right.
But throughout the days, there were points where I was really low and points where I was really high. I think that's traveling in a way, is like sometimes
The
you're
ups
just
and
lonely.
downs. Yeah.
I was lonely a couple nights. Like I was very sad, and I wasn't confident in my ability to talk to new people. Maybe I felt like I was awkward or I was overthinking, the conversations I had with people. And I think I've struggled with anxiety a little bit in my life.
And that's what that
that is.
Absolutely.
But there would be times after where there were little notes in my journal where I would just say, I just had the best moment of my life. I was just walking by myself. Actually, I think I posted a post about this on Instagram. I was walking by myself.
I don't follow you, so I wouldn't.
No. Rude. No. But I was walking, and I had my earbuds in, which is actually not the best thing for females to do. Maybe don't walk alone with your earbuds in.
Use one earbud.
But yeah, one earbud or something. But I was. And I was listening to this song, and it was called, I was just listening to music, my own playlist, and a song called Naive Unprepared Child came on. And it felt so ironic. And I was like, I'm here alone. It was like my first week. And I did this thing. I came by myself, and I'm like traveling to a new city by myself. And I don't feel naive or unprepared or like a child. I felt like an adult.
Good for you.
And it was just really happy. And I was just like smiling to myself, and I probably look crazy, but it felt great.
And then as you get more confidence, is that what changed over time?
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about that a little bit, like in terms of like even the anxiety of talking to people. Do you feel like that went away over the course of the trip?
Yes, a lot, because first of all, I was used to it. Just with
You were
new
the
people.
experienced one in
Right.
the hostels and.
maybe not. I was still one of the younger ones.
Oh, you were.
Yeah, because a lot of people are traveling after undergraduate,
Right.
or there were just a few people my age, but usually they were older.
That is so odd for me. I never think of that
What?
as older people in their late 20s or 30s.
Mid to late 20s
Mostly-
compared to
mostly
after high
20s.
school.
And
Like
yes,
19, 20.
Yeah.
Like sophomore.
but going to hostels.
Yeah.
I always think of them going to a motel or a hotel or a.
older people.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's just such a cheap way to travel in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a social experience. So it's, you have more fun at a hostel than a hotel.
Yeah.
You'd
So
have a nice,
meanwhile-
quiet, beautiful, relaxing night at a hotel. But at a hostel, you're going to meet people.
Right.
And it's really fun.
And so go on.
Where was I?
You're talking about the progress that you
Yeah,
as a
so we had
person
talked about that
made.
anxiety issue and how you got better at talking to people, and that kind of went away over time.
I think the anxiety at the beginning of my trip was that it came from the fact that I was meeting people who had already done so many of the things that I wanted to do. They had already traveled. And so it wasn't anxiety from nowhere. It was almost anxiety that I had nothing to share. I just wanted to listen to them.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I just found their stories so fascinating that I wished I could just sit there and just listen all night.
Do you remember like a story or something someone talked about, or was it just like their travels and what they saw and just...
It wasn't always even travels. I just felt like because they're older than me, sometimes I get this like little fear complex that I have nothing to offer in conversation, which is not true, obviously. But in terms of when we're talking about traveling, it was true I didn't have as much experience. Exactly. So I was battling this thing in my head of like, I don't want to share. I don't want to feel like I have to, tell them things. I just want to listen, and I want that to be okay.
Right.
Oh, I'm sure they loved it.
Yeah, people do. They really enjoy when someone actually
to tell their story.
Yeah, I was fully invested in, and I think people respect that. But I got worried that I wasn't presenting myself in a strong way, or in a, I got over that so quick.
Oh,
this
yeah.
is just like just beginning fears, that I think everyone will have when they first travel by themselves.
For sure.
But I got over it after I'd been to a couple countries, and it wasn't just because I had countries to talk about. It was just I had so much experience talking to people, and, realizing it was okay sometimes just to listen, or it's okay sometimes to talk about myself. And it's just a balance. When you start like making friends with people, you just, it's give and take.
That's it.
So, yeah.
That's amazing. Wow. Do you want to,
I just like to say,
go ahead, sir.
One comment. I think, and I don't know if it's just women, but certainly I went through
it's just
something
women.
similar. He wishes. But I went through something similar. And around the same time, because I had never left home. And I, even in the summers, I never went to summer camp. I never went to day camp. Always with my parents and family, big family. And then I went away to college. Very difficult. I was 700 miles away. Shock, unhappiness. And it took me a long time. I stayed for other reasons because I loved
academic
what I was
reasons,
doing. Yes.
Your professors. And
yes. But that exact same growing up, having confidence in yourself, thinking you're worthwhile, what you might say is worthwhile.
Yeah.
But I get it. I get it.
And and I think, it was hard, to come to the realization, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think if COVID hadn't happened and you had gone to Montreal to be in college and you'd had this great freshman, sophomore experience, you probably would have taken a year after college. But to me, it seems like you never you're in this time where your body and brain wants to grow. And you want to develop the person who you're going to be. And life as it was in the setting of COVID wasn't providing that. And you had to find the fertile ground to go experience life because it was your time like a moth to, turn into a butterfly. And you needed it. This was the time. And a lot of times you don't have control over when that time is. But you do have control over the environment it happens in. And that's what you did. You figured that out. And I think that was on you. And I'm proud of you for how you did that.
Thank you.
Because you saw it, not the whole way you did it, but the trip that you took, the Europe trip, I think you did a great job.
Thank you.
And we're really proud of you. And it was a big trip, but you were really very safe. You were cautious. The way you handled things, the way you communicated with us, I thought was great.
I thought that was good. That's a good tip also
Mm.
for anyone who's going to travel on their own,
Mm.
just always tell people where you're going.
And now with iPhones and smartphones, you know, like
Easy.
having people be able to track where you are is good. It's like we literally only looked at it like if we didn't hear from you for a few days and we're like, oh, where is she? And you were at the hostel. And,
Yeah.
you know, but we were, you know, it was nice to know that if something happened, we were able to know where you are.
Mm-hmm. And I
which
thought
is
it was
really
good just if I was moving places, text you the address of the place I was heading
Exactly.
to. And just
Yeah.
for peace of mind for mom
Yeah.
to, you know.
So while
not
we're on
go
tips,
off
do you
the
have
rails.
any other big tips you want to give to some listeners out there or your
Yeah,
friends
let
who
me
might want to
just-
take a trip?
Yeah, always charge your phone
Have a
if
charge
you're going to
phone.
go out. My friend gave me a power bank.
That's good.
So that was lifesaver. I didn't even have service always. The beginning of my trip, I bought a SIM card, and it was like 20 euros a month, and you get 10 gigabytes of data and unlimited text and call within the country or within the EU actually. So I didn't really, you know, have to worry that much. But yeah, so always just
Keep your phone charged.
keep your phone charged and have a way to use it, or
Yeah.
you know that you can go in a cafe and use Wi-Fi, or just stop by in a hotel if you need to get help from someone.
Mm-hmm.
Make friends everywhere you go, because I think I'm a bit of an introvert in the way that I like to recharge by myself, and I enjoy spending time with myself. But making friends and meeting people and talking to new people is the way that you will grow. And seeing what you like in other people is how you kind of realize what you want to do yourself. You have to have role models, and so it was important for me to just talk to people. Even if I didn't feel like it sometimes, I'd just go downstairs to the hostel anyway and just start talking to people. And you never end up knowing what you're going to do. You might go for a hike the next day with
Right.
them, or, you know, it's just good to push yourself a little bit out of your comfort zone.
Good tip.
Definitely keep your phone hidden when you're walking around the city, because
Did someone try to take your phone?
not me, but I met a girl in Greece who on the metro, she was older than me too. She'd been traveling for a while, but some guys just started kind of pushing to get into the metro. It was a busy time, and her phone and purse were kind of underneath her coat, but she was being pushed and she was distracted, and when she got on the metro, her stuff was gone.
Oh my God.
So it's kind of like they teamed up on her, and so just make sure you have like maybe an underneath thing with your, with the bulk of your money and
Passport.
your passport and your phone
Wow.
kind of underneath if
Yeah.
you can, and just be aware, especially on the metro or crowded places, like sleight of hand stuff can go on.
Did you feel safe in the hostel?
Yeah, because
Aunt Monica had an experience where all her stuff was stolen.
I met some people that happened to as well.
You did.
I used a lock almost always, but even with a lock,
To
things
lock
can
it
happen.
to your bed?
No, they have lockers.
You have a locker.
Oh, a locker.
But if they don't have lockers, obviously, what
screwed,
can you do? Yeah. For the most part, I stayed in female dorms, and
Oh, interesting.
I just always felt like my stuff was safer in there.
Right.
Couldn't tell you why. Just usually I made friends with them, and like it was just easy to be like, I knew they weren't gonna steal my stuff. But I put a lock on my stuff always anyway. But yeah, I met a guy actually in Colombia whose stuff got stolen, and he had a lock on all of it. But some local guy, just went up to he was staying in the hostel in the same room as this guy, and he went up to the front desk and he asked for bolt cutters because he forgot his own lock combination.
Right.
And the hostel just gave him bolt cutters.
Dumb.
And he
There
went
you
and
go.
cut the lock off and took this guy's expensive camera equipment and stuff.
Oh, that's brutal.
So stuff like that happens, but
yeah.
you just be as safe as you can. Don't buy like the flashiest big lock, because then people know that like you have something.
Don't
to
stay
keep
in a
safe.
hostel with really expensive equipment.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not smart.
Yeah, everything I brought, I was like, wouldn't be devastated if I lost.
Right.
Except for maybe my backpack. I would be sad if I lost that. But yeah. And politeness is never more important than safety.
Okay, elaborate on that. What do you mean?
Just
Like what you were talking about with that guy.
exactly. Just, always be kind to people to a point.
Right.
Be kind to them and be open, but never once you start to feel uncomfortable. Never once you feel like your safety is compromised.
Yeah.
Is it worth it to keep being nice to someone? You can say fuck off if you need to.
Oh, jeez.
Like
Yes.
you can.
Yeah.
You can.
Sometimes you have to.
No, that is
Sometimes
for
you
sure.
do what you did, which I thought was very smart, which was to report
Mm-hmm.
that there was
Yeah,
This
just talk to
person-
someone.
talk to someone and seek help.
Yeah.
So are there any other pictures? You want to show us a couple other pics as we close
Yeah.
out here?
Yeah.
The cat is resting.
Okay. This is my first
All right.
legal
Well, that's
drink.
Hey, that's
ever, I
right.
guess.
Ever.
Yeah.
Did you finish that?
Yes. I did finish that.
That picture is enlarged, Craig.
No,
No.
it's not.
Oh, God.
That was delicious. I only had one,
Guinness.
but it's Irish Guinness.
Of
Like
course.
the Guinness
The
Right.
best.
factory is right down the
Oh, yeah.
road.
And it
it's,
tastes completely different from Guinness here.
yeah, it's like chocolatey and coffee like.
That's what they say.
It was really, really good. That was the Cliffs of Moher. I did a nice tour of that with my friend Gerda. And we just walked and talked. And, yeah, those were really beautiful cliffs.
Oh, those are beautiful. The shoreline.
Mm-hmm.
Did you walk much
That's
more?
her. Yes. In Europe, I walked so much.
I feel that is one thing we can learn from Europeans,
Mm-hmm.
is to make our feet go and walk.
Yes.
That's why, I will say it's very, very true that in Europe, it's hard to come by people who are overweight compared to here in the States.
It's true.
Really, because everybody's walking there all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe they don't eat that much better than we eat. I think vegan food and vegetarian food is easier to come by in the big cities over there. In the big cities here, probably the same. But, yeah, I really didn't see many overweight people walking around. So I thought that was very interesting. And it was nice to see,
It is
healthy
nice
people.
to see.
Ireland
Yes.
actually has one of the highest levels of obesity
Do they?
in the world.
Really?
Yep.
Ireland. That's from alcohol.
I mean, it's hard
Maybe
to
it's
know.
beer bellies.
60% of adults and 1 in 5 children and young people living with overweight and obesity.
Wow.
Yep.
Oh,
in
yes.
Europe, they're
This
one of the highest.
was so I felt really healthy walking around a lot. But since I've been working out at home with Dad, I'm like, wow. I might have been, getting my exercise and my walking in, but I wasn't working
You weren't
out
ready, no.
because now I'm sore as all hell.
That's good.
But yeah, we did this adventure tour. So we took the bus to the Cliffs of Moher, and then we got off the bus and
Followed the signs.
yeah, we just did our own thing. The rest of everyone else
Did a tour.
took the bus all the way to the cliffs.
Oh.
We got off 5 kilometers
Oh.
before the cliffs, and we found our own way there.
Cool.
And we realized once we got out of it, off the path, that the path was closed, and that's why there was no one else on it. That's why we were so
Ugh,
confused,
That
because it was
bites.
a really rainy, muddy day.
Did you have to be
there's no
careful
rail.
on a muddy day? Because, did they
Yeah.
close it because it was
There's no rail.
slippery, no rail?
Yeah.
that's what you gotta watch.
So, but we kind of felt proud of ourselves because it was fun. And yeah, that was that. This was a Menlo Castle in right outside of Galway, which was really beautiful. I was hanging out with this guy who does what's it called? Not anthropology. No, digging.
Yeah, anthropology.
No.
Well,
No, not necessarily.
No.
Not anthropology, but
It's when you go into old sites.
Archaeology.
Archaeology.
Yeah, so he was an archaeology major. And he was just explaining to me the history of this old castle. Like, we took like a 10-kilometer walk to get there, and with a whole group from the hostel, and it was really a lot of fun.
That's cool.
This was a beautiful place. These were some goats in Ireland. They were wacko. Goats
Nothing
are
like
so
Irish
weird.
goats.
Yeah, did you see this one climbing the tree?
Oh, there's one up in the tree.
They're
I love
so
it.
funny.
They are funny.
London, telephone booth.
Gotta have a phone booth shot.
Yeah.
Did you even know what a phone booth was?
Never had to use one before, but I've seen them in movies.
Good point.
What's that tower?
I don't
wonder.
know.
Could that be the Tour Eiffel?
But I found that on accident. I was just walking around the city and I stumbled
That's
upon
so
it.
Funny.
And it was really a nice moment. Sacré-Cœur.
But tell
Okay.
Papa where that was. Way
Yeah.
at the top.
Way at the top, up tons of stairs.
In
Like
the
20
most
flights of
artistic,
stairs.
crazy area
Oh my
of
God.
Paris.
Did you
All
see
of
some great
show 'em
artwork
the-
there and street art and
Oh.
artists out?
So much beautiful graffiti.
It's unbelievable.
And it really makes the city in a way. You know, it's vandalism, but I think it adds a lot.
Especially in Montmartre.
Yeah.
People expect it.
And I love the ones that were on the stairs.
I thought
actually
that was
saw a few
adorable.
that made a whole picture. When you're at the bottom of the stairs, you can see the full picture
Wow.
on each layer
Right.
of the stair. It
Oh,
was
yeah,
gorgeous.
that's amazing.
And
Tell Craig where this is.
you know that one? It's the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona.
Oh.
And that's by Gaudi.
But Craig, that building was started in the early 1800s.
Wow.
It's not finished.
Oh,
They're still working to finish it.
And this is, I think, the new side. The opposite side is the old architecture. You know, it's dirtier. It's kind of broken down a little bit.
But it's so contemporary.
Oh my God!
I mean, it's crazy.
It looks like something out of
A storybook.
cartoon. Yeah.
Cartoon book.
And they're starting to paint it because when Gaudi designed this building, he wanted the whole thing to be painted. How would that ever happen? It's a massive, massive building.
No.
But also on the inside, one of the things, I didn't get to go inside because it was expensive, but I heard that the stained glass is made in a way that on the east side, it's like the sunrise
Mm.
and the sunrise colors, and on the west side, it's like the sunset,
Amazing.
and it's supposed to be very beautiful. And there's some like winter, summer color variations in the
Right.
stained glass. It's a super intricate building. Really, really cool. That's Barcelona from Bunker Hill.
Now, Craig, you went through Barcelona
Yes.
on a train.
Yes. And then to Pamplona to run with the bulls.
Yes.
Whoa. I didn't
So-
do that. Too scared to do that.
The running with the bulls was like, made Mardi Gras look like a house party.
Oh my God. Was
It
that
was-
like really scary?
It was. I remember you talk
Terrifying.
about someone stealing a phone. Like at one point, you couldn't even stay places. People literally slept on the streets and in the parks, and there was just people strewn everywhere.
Oh my God.
And
oh, you showed me a picture.
I remember we were laying on a bench, me and a couple of friends, and someone was trying to take a bag. Like literally, your head's on your bag, and someone comes up and they're trying to take your day bag. We had left our big bags at the hostel,
Yeah.
and we just had traveled there with like a little pouch.
Yeah.
But man, it was crazy,
Yeah, that's wild.
wild.
Look at the weather change.
Oh,
My
yeah.
God.
That was in Italy. It was very cold.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's great.
all that stuff. That's the crew from the Workaway.
Yeah,
We went on a lot of hikes together.
that's so nice.
That was really fun.
It's
That's the
great.
Coliseum at night
Mhm.
with some friends. My Christmas
Ooh,
dinner.
Beautiful.
That looks amazing.
Yeah, we had a
Beautiful.
really nice dinner. I made some soup and those caprese.
You weren't
balls.
feeling well.
No, I think
Really?
maybe I had COVID.
Mm.
I was feeling really sick the night before. I was shivering in bed while I was sweating.
I'm sure
Right.
you had a fever.
Yeah, I had a horrible fever, I'm sure. But I got up the next day and I went to Christmas dinner.
And you rallied.
Good
yeah, because
for
also I didn't want to
you.
worry anybody.
Yeah.
But I took a rapid test and it was negative, so who knows? Oh, we made some chestnut cookies out of those.
Beautiful, Hallie.
Yeah, out of the chestnut flour, we made those chestnut cookies.
Oh, neat.
Well, if you ever have a creative writing course, honey, you got plenty to write about.
Lots of
Mhm.
material.
Lots of material.
Yeah.
Hallie, you did a great job. Yeah. Thank you
Thanks.
so much for chatting and telling us all about all the different aspects of the trip.
Yeah.
Was there anything that you feel like we missed, the highlights that you wanted to
Oh, yes.
hit? What?
Okay. This was I wanted to talk about the balance of staying connected with family
Mm.
and living in the moment as well. You know, like how much was I supposed to talk to you guys, or how much did you want me to communicate with you?
Right. And I think we had kind of planned that, we'd like to hear from you like maybe every 2 days just to kind of know where you were. Like even if
Yeah.
it's just a text like, hey, I'm safe, I'm at the hostel.
Yeah.
That's what, anytime we went 2 days and we didn't hear from you, we wouldn't necessarily reach out with WhatsApp. We would just kind of take a quick look and see if we could locate you. And we're like,
Yeah.
oh, she's at the hostel. We're good. She'll call us tomorrow.
Yeah.
So we were trying to give you your space.
Yeah. And I wanted to learn and grow on my own, but also, you're my family, so I wanted to catch up and make sure I knew what was going on and stuff. So I was really happy for technology that we got to FaceTime
Yeah.
and we did family Zoom calls.
That was wonderful.
That
Yeah.
was a lot of fun.
And we all got to catch up. So I think that was really important too. So I didn't feel too lonely or too, like I wanted to do my own thing, but not too much. So,
Right.
And that is the balance.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think all of life is like that. Even as you grow older and you start to have your own kids and your own family, there's always a balance between the generations of how much communication and those things are. And it changes. So,
It definitely changes.
It changes.
As you get older, you realize your children are independent and their children are independent. And you become more an observer. You have stories to share, but you're really more an observer.
I was really
Then-
happy that you guys were all so supportive too. That because you're an observer, but also
We
support
loved it.
system,
Yes.
which was
but we
really nice.
loved it.
I'm glad, and we got to speak French on the phone. And
Yeah. Should we close it
course.
out with a little French discussion?
Oh, no.
Oui, bien sûr.
Pourquoi pas? Pourquoi pas? Why not?
Oui.
No.
Donc c'était
C'était
bien.
formidable.
C'était un bon podcast.
Oui, et merci. Merci, mon
Merci,
fils.
Dad.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci,
No, that
mon
was
père.
fantastic. Hallie, you did a great job. Thank you so much. That was awesome. And we will talk to you again soon at home.
Dad.
Cool.
Fun.
That was great.
That
Whoa, it's weird to hear normal.